breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Well, happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to Jeff Diamond's Purple Report. I don't have my costume on today, but oh well. Certainly happy to be with you today and every Monday during the Viking season, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN and available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is AJ Fredrickson, does a great job getting all of our sound and clips and organizing the show. And AJ, happy Halloween to you. And certainly a lot of good, shall we say, treats for the Vikings yesterday and for their fans. Not so much tricks.
No, not too much. I think maybe we need to get on a little better page here because neither of us are in a costume this week, Jeff. And we had a full bye week to plan something. But yeah, no, more treats than tricks, which I think coming out of the bye is a lot more favorable for any Vikings fan, definitely. Yeah, certainly true. And when you look at yesterday's game, there were some scary moments. Since it is Halloween, we'll say there were some scary moments when the Cardinals made their little rally in the third quarter and got up 17-14 in the ball game. And that is a talented Cardinals team, by the way. I find it very interesting and a little frustrating, I'm sure, for the Vikings organization and the fans when you hear some of the national commentators talk about the Vikings 6-1 record, and they're not as good as their record indicates, and they're not on the same level as Philadelphia and Buffalo and Dallas and Kansas City. Hey, nobody's on Philadelphia's level. They're undefeated. Yeah. Buffalo, we know is certainly a supremely talented team, and the Vikings will see them in 2 weeks in Buffalo. So we'll perhaps learn a little bit more about this Vikings team then. But your record is what it is, as they say, as Bill Parcells used to say, and they are 6-1. So you start from there when you say, what do we like about what's going on, what happened yesterday in the 34-26 win over the Cardinals? As I said, a very talented team, some very elite players, guys like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Isaiah Simmons on defense, and Budda Baker, future Hall of Famer J.J. Watt. That's a talented football team. They didn't always play great and smart and a lot of penalties in the ball game, but so did the Vikings. But you got to say, to me, it's an impressive win coming off a bye week when they've had trouble in the past, getting refocused real quickly. Again, showed their resiliency in this win, coming from behind. It's the fifth straight game they've had to come from behind. So they've proven they can win close ball games and tough ball games. 4-0 at home, 6-1 overall. And now they've got, I don't want to call it a stranglehold on the NFC North, but it's going to be very difficult to catch the Vikings with the Bears losing in Dallas, the Packers losing in Buffalo. They both fall to 3-5, and the Vikings now with a 3.5 game lead through 7 games, 10 games to go. So certainly they're in great shape. Now they have a tough couple weeks coming up. Washington is a hot team right now. They've won 3 straight. Had a good road win in Indianapolis yesterday on the last second touchdown by Taylor Heineke, a former Viking quarterback back in the day. And the Washington Commanders, I have a hard time getting used to that name, the Commanders, but that's what they are. I'm still stuck on the football team, personally. Right, yeah. And I don't like their owner, Daniel Snyder, but they've got some really good players on that team, especially on that defense led by Jonathan Allen, who's a Pro Bowler. And they'll give the Vikings all they want in Washington. Then they go to Buffalo, which we know is going to be a very difficult task, and then have the Dallas Cowboys here the following game. But I think back to last Halloween, AJ, and last Halloween the Vikings were hosting the Cowboys on national TV. That didn't turn out so well. No, it did not.
It was Cooper Rush's first NFL start, which he's had several other wins since then. But in that particular game, this Halloween looks a lot more friendly. And I remember the players usually would have a Halloween party, the Viking players I'm talking about. If they're doing that tonight, I think it would be a very joyous party considering their current status on a 5-game winning streak and with that big lead in the NFC North. But other things, as we break down the game and react to the game, other things I liked, obviously, as I said, coming from behind, the run game, which Kevin O'Connell said was a point of emphasis this week, and had a very good day running the ball, 173 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, 111 and a touchdown from Dalvin Cook, his first 100-yard game of the season, which is great. 40 tough yards by Alexander Mattison and a touchdown run. We'll get into some of the highlights in a minute. And then Kirk Cousins had that very exciting 17-yard scramble touchdown run to the pylon for the first score in the game. The other things I liked, the offensive line, in-run blocking, tight ends, C.J. Ham doing a really good job. The pass protection, still a little bit off and on, and we'll talk a little bit about, you got to think about Ed Ingram at guard. He had some trouble with J.J. Watt yesterday, and worry about him a little bit going into this game with Washington because they've got 2 really stout inside guys, and Jonathan Allen, who's a Pro Bowler, and Darren Payne, and they move these players around a lot. I think that's one of the big changes we see in the NFL now in terms of these elite defensive linemen, that the defensive coordinators are moving them all over the place. Ed Donatel moves Zadarius Smith. He lined up everywhere against the Cardinals, including 8 times over the center, and had 3 sacks. He's leading the NFL in sacks now with 8.5. Fought off a knee injury, had a great day. And on the day that they honored Jared Allen, the former Viking great pass rusher. And I thought it was very cool when Zadarius did his little tribute to Jared Allen with the calf roping move after his first sack.
Yeah.
That was kind of a fun moment in the game. Vikings 5 for 5 on red zone touchdowns. That'll win a lot of games. The defense, good versus the run, gave up only 78 yards, and 36 of that was to Kyler Murray, but his longest run was only 8 yards. So that was impressive. Winning the turnover battle, +2 in turnovers. The turnovers were very big in this ball game, especially in the second half. Set up 13 points for the Vikings that really ended up being the difference in the ball game. And now they're +6 in turnover ratio for the year. That translates to, as I said, a winning season for teams. I love the play of the ex-Cardinals and the passion that they brought to the game, talking about Patrick Peterson, and we'll have a clip from him shortly. Just, you talk about his excitement to face his former team, and he was really revved up and had 3 great pass breakups, including on A.J. Green in the end zone. Jordan Hicks, another ex-Cardinal, had also a very good game. He's the Vikings' leading tackler this year and made a huge play on a 4th and 4 stop with a couple minutes to go in the ball game to turn it over. That was a big play too. So a lot of good stuff. Zadarius Smith, we've talked about. The coverage units on special teams forced a big fumble. The not so good in the ball game, there were some things. Cousins had a few overthrows early, settled down, made some great throws as the game went on, and we'll play some of those highlights. Ed Ingram, we talked about the rookie guard. I think he needs some more help when he's going against these premier pass rushers such as J.J. Watt, even though he's a little bit long in the tooth. But as I said, he's going to face probably Jonathan Allen a lot this week. Needs a little more help. I think there's still a little bit too much yardage given up in the passing game and pass defense. And we saw DeAndre Hopkins is a great, great player. I don't like Cam Dantzler singled up on him, however. I think that's a bad formula. I'd like to see Patrick Peterson maybe lining up a little bit more, following some of these premier receivers. We saw with Tyreek Hill the week before. He had 12 catches for 177. And in this game, DeAndre Hopkins had, I think, 11 for 159 and a touchdown. Greg Joseph, I'm not sure, AJ, if he's trying to keep the games close because maybe he likes that stat that the Vikings are 5-0 in one-score games. But this is the 3rd game out of the last 4 that he's missed an extra point that kept us a one-score game after that last touchdown and brought it down to the last 30 seconds of the ball game. If he makes that extra point, it's a 9-point game, 2 scores, totally different. He can't be missing extra points.
How much is he walking that tightrope right now? Because at a certain point, you got to make a change. How much leash, with your experiences, are you viewing maybe this current Vikings regime giving Greg Joseph with just the struggles we've seen these past few weeks?
Yeah, I think that Kevin O'Connell is going to be patient with him. It helps when you're 6-1, certainly.
Yes, no kidding.
Yes, and I think also they like his strength on kickoffs. Basically, he can kick it out of the end zone anytime he wants. When he kicks it short, it's on purpose to try to pin the team down. And he's been perfect inside of the 50 this year on his field goals. It's just outside the 50, he's 1 for 6, and last year he was over 500 percentage outside the 50. But the extra points are a problem, and I think that really is partially concentration. He's got to really bear down on those extra points, because those should be chip shots for a guy of his talent. So I don't think he's in any danger yet, but we'll have to kind of stay tuned on that.
Yeah.
The penalties were an issue in the game against the Cardinals. 10 penalties, too many after only 25 through the first 6 games, and O'Connell will emphasize that this week. So we're going to get into our highlights in a minute, but before we do that, I want to talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. And it's time to visit your Select Minnesota GMC dealer and hit the turf in a truck that's designed to tackle the toughest proving grounds. That's the GMC Sierra SLE. It's bold, precise, and capable. Sierra comes standard with a 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine, delivering 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque, or call a winning play with an available 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And when it comes to comfort and refinement, climb in and discover the convenience of the standard 13.4-inch diagonal center touchscreen. And don't forget, Sierra is truly the MVP with the world's first available 6-function multi-pro tailgate. It's time to step up to professional grade and test drive a new GMC Sierra SLE today. Available now at your Select Minnesota GMC dealers or online at TwinCitiesBuickGMC.com. Okay, AJ, let's get into the highlights. And there are lots of highlights, and these are courtesy of Fox and Chris Myers and Mark Schlereth on the call with Fox. And let's start out with that wonderful 17-yard touchdown run by Kirk Cousins. I love CJ Ham's comment after. He said, Lamar who? Talking about Lamar Jackson. So here's Kirk Cousins.
Receiver, top of your screen. Cousins looks to the middle of the field. And he's already run for a first down. Can he run for another one? Can he run for a touchdown? Diving to the end zone. That's a Viking touchdown. Kirk Cousins.
And that was in the first quarter. Johnny Munt had his first career touchdown, the tight end, in the second quarter, making it 14-3 for the Vikings.
Cousins wide open. Touchdown Vikings. Johnny Munt.
How about the efficiency by him? 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown.
Exactly right. And a great sales job on it. Pretending the block, which he actually was blocking, and then kind of getting out into space and catching the ball. We have to do one Cardinal highlight because DeAndre Hopkins' touchdown catch in the second quarter that made it 14-10, one of the best catches you'll see. And I was talking before about the Vikings coverage, and especially with Cam Dantzler giving Hopkins a little too much space. But on this play, Harrison Smith is all over him, and Hopkins makes a phenomenal catch.
Murray, end zone throw. Oh, what a catch! One-handed DeAndre Hopkins. And that is a Cardinal touchdown.
So the Cardinals take the lead in the third quarter, go up 17-14. And then there's I thought one of the really biggest plays in the game where the Vikings are down at this point by 3, and it's 3rd and 5. They're struggling a little bit, and then Kirk Cousins kind of trusted his instincts, threw it up to Justin Jefferson, who looks like he's covered, but makes a phenomenal 29-yard reception.
This is his 6th straight game without a touchdown catch, as good as he's been, as much as he's caught the ball. And there's a terrific catch! Jefferson!
That was just a fantastic catch by one of the best receivers in the NFL. We know that. and that led to Alexander Madison exploding for a 7-yard touchdown run to put the Vikings in the lead.
Jalen Thompson, that good coverage.
They let him play.
Yeah.
Hand off. Madison powering in for a Viking touchdown.
Great lead block by Christian Darrisaw there. And so the Vikings at that point have the lead. The very next play, there's pressure on Murray, and Harrison Smith picks him off.
Murray's throwing deep. Robbie Anderson way short and intercepted. Harrison Smith down to the 31 of Arizona.
And that, again, a turnover that leads to a touchdown again. And in this particular case, it was set up. Kirk Cousins made a really good audible play to hit Justin Jefferson for 17 yards, get it down in the red zone. A great blitz pickup by Dalvin Cook on that particular play, and that set up this touchdown run by Dalvin.
Dalvin Cook in the backfield. He gets the football, and Dalvin Cook is into the end zone for a Vikings touchdown.
So at that point, 28-17, thinking, okay, the Vikings are on cruise control. Not so fast. and the Cardinals whiz down the field, some bad tackling, and Rondale Moore has a long touchdown reception. At that point, it's then another field goal by Arizona. They pull within 2 points, 28-26, and the Vikings go 3 and out. All of a sudden, a little bit of concern, but the special teams came up with the big play.
Doesn't get him down. He probably gets him down.
Greg Dortch fumbled the punt. Did he get it back? There's a scramble for it. He had a second shot at it, did Dortch. Vikings have the football.
And that was a huge, huge play. And again, as I said, 13 points off turnovers in the second half, especially, and that set up. Cousins had, as I said, some up and down moments in this game, but this was perhaps his best throw of the day, a corner route to KJ Osborne for the kind of the clinching touchdown.
That's really good quarterback play.
Cousins throw, end zone, KJ Osborne, touchdown Vikings.
And the Vikings are up at that point. Unfortunately, the Greg Joseph missed extra point comes into play. and so instead of a 9-point lead, it's an 8-point lead and coming down to the wire. We talked about Zadarius Smith, and he made what really was the game clinching sack with only about 20 seconds to go, and had 3 sacks on the day, 8.5 for the season, leading the NFL. And here was one of his sacks in the ballgame.
Blitz is picked up. Murray is sacked. Not picked up enough.
In the middle of the football field, standing up right here and say, hey, who we got? How you going to designate? You see it, get switched up there, man-to-man coverage, and he just gets over Billy Price and drives right in to the backfield, and that's an homage.
Now, you talk about, AJ, what's the difference in this Viking team compared to last year? I think it starts with, obviously, the coaching staff, the culture change, everything that happened there. But I think the key free agent signing for this football team was Zadarius Smith. And the fact that he's come back healthy this year, Danielle Hunter's come back healthy this year. Those two guys are such a huge factor on defense and have made that big effect on this football team. Zadarius Smith is playing at an all-pro level. Let's go, first of all, before we jump to our next some interviews, a little bit of sound from the players and coaches. Let's talk again about the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to visit your Select Minnesota GMC dealer and hit the turf in a truck that's designed to tackle the toughest proving grounds. That's the GMC Sierra SLE. It's bold, precise, and capable. Sierra comes standard with a 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine delivering 310 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Or call a winning play with an available 3.0-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine with a 10-speed automatic transmission. And when it comes to comfort and refinement, climb in and discover the convenience of the standard 13.4-inch diagonal center touchscreen And don't forget, Sierra is truly the MVP with the world's first available 6-function multi-pro tailgate. It's time to step up to professional grade and test drive a new GMC Sierra SLE today. Available now at your select Minnesota GMC dealers or online at TwinCitiesBuickGMC.com. Okay, AJ, let's hear from the coach and a couple of the players.
Stayed in really manageable third downs in the first half, which helped a lot. There's still so much we can do better. There's ways to stay on the field, really, is what I look at, on third down when we're punting. Some of those plays that if you can, find a way to improve in those moments, then we can stay on the field and prolong drives and would prefer to pull away when we get a lead. But it's hard to pull away in this league, I'm learning. All these games seem to come down to the final drive, and no matter how hard you try, it's difficult to pull away. But great to get Dalvin going, great to see what Alex can do, and we'll just keep going from here.
And Jeff, before you jump into the next player post-game press conference, quick question for you on something that Kirk there said. They're having trouble pulling away from teams. I know you're 6-1 and you feel great about it. Is there any concern that we've yet to really see them pull away from a team in the second half, like late down the stretch, or is it okay that they're keeping all these games close and just able to turn the switch on right as they need to?
I think it's fine. I think it's about getting W's, and ultimately, I always told the players and the coaches, just get the W, because in 3 weeks, no one's going to remember what happened. And if you go back to the opening game, they did pull away from the Packers in that game that they won 24-7. So they are capable of doing it. I'm sure we'll see it happen as the season goes on. But meanwhile, I think it builds a lot of confidence in the team. I don't think there's anything wrong with winning close games, because last year we saw what happened when they went 6-8 in those one-score ball games. So, yeah, let's hear from Patrick Peterson and Coach O'Connell.
Just impactful, I thought Dalvin was 34 yards all-purpose. Could have had a little bit more all-purpose yards there. Didn't have great execution on that last screen call. Otherwise, I thought we might have been able to turn that one into an explosive. But I thought Kirk played really efficient. We were +2 turnover-wise, how we look at it, including that muffed punt in the special teams area, and then ultimately to be able to be 5 of 5 in the red zone and good enough on third down to control the ball enough. I still think there's a lot of things that I can continue to improve on, as well as our team, and the best thing is those guys are the ones talking like that in the locker room already. So,
for maybe the not as big X and O football fans out there, you go back to that trip to London where they were just dreadful in the red zone. Now this week, 5 for 5 in the red zone, like Coach O'Connell just said. What does that do, especially on the sidelines, for the confidence boost on the offense of like, all right, we got down here, now we know we're going to punch it in?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a confidence builder. And you go 5 for 5 in the red zone scoring touchdowns, it's going to win you a lot of football games. They know that. And so that's a great sign moving forward, and against a team that has some really talented players on defense, as we mentioned earlier. So that should bode well. Washington is going to present a challenge defensively. They've got some pretty good players on that defense. We know Buffalo is one of the top defenses in the league in 2 weeks, and so is Dallas after that. I think these next 3 weeks will tell us a lot about this Viking football team. But meanwhile, 6-1, they're in great shape, as we said. And we talked earlier about Patrick Peterson. He is such an important player on this team in that secondary, along with Harrison Smith, the leadership that he brings and the mentorship he does with guys like Dantzler, Cam Bynum. And Patrick was fired up after the game.
Is there a part of you that put the Cardinals aside and you want the league to know that you're, I think the terms you use, I still got it?
Oh, yeah. I still got it. All I heard the last 2 years, he's washed up, he's done. Yeah, I know we got a second half of the season going, but I'm just getting started. Like, I'm in my zone right now. I'm in a groove. I've been here before. I know how to keep it. And I want to continue being challenged, continue to helping this team win ball games, because I promise you this, if I get challenged, I will show up on the stat sheet. And that's why I've been missing out on Pro Bowls and All Pros. I'm here. 12 years in, I'm still standing strong.
Just that people aren't targeting you?
Yeah, I mean, the proof is in the pudding.
Love the passion of Patrick Peterson, and he still is playing very, very well. Let's go quickly around the NFL. Observations from the Sunday games. The Packers defense played the Bills fairly tough. Aaron Jones ran it well, but Aaron Rodgers is still missing receivers and doesn't have his core receivers there, and has a big effect on that team. And Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs connected 6 times for 108 yards and a touchdown. Buffalo wins. Meanwhile, the Cowboys trounced the Bears, and the Bears are having a fire sale. They traded Roquan Smith today. Trade deadline coming up. Traded their leading tackler in the NFL for a couple of draft picks. They had traded Robert Quinn, their best pass rusher, last week. And so that's not bad news for the Vikings, since they're going to have to face the Bears one more time. But the Bears obviously loading up for the future with those draft picks. The New York teams, AJ, came back to earth a little bit yesterday, and the Giants lost in Seattle. The Jets lost for the 13th straight time to Bill Belichick and the Patriots. And you just knew going into that game that Belichick would have Zach Wilson, the second-year quarterback's number, and that he would figure out a way to harass him, and which they did in that ball game. But the Giants are still 6-2, the Jets 5-3, and in playoff contention. The Eagles, as we said, keep rolling. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, probably the 2 MVP candidates right now. And obviously Patrick Mahomes always in that conversation. But Jalen Hurts passed for 285 and 4 touchdowns. A.J. Brown had 3 scores. And the 49ers dominating the Rams still in regular season. The Super Bowl champion Rams are now 3-4 in 3rd place in their division. And Christian McCaffrey, who was acquired last week, had a rare trio of touchdowns, 1 throwing, 1 receiving, and 1 running. And so he's obviously going to make a difference for that football team, and did yesterday. So, as we said, next game, Washington Commanders in D.C. next Sunday, and we'll be back next Monday to break down the Washington game and see if the Vikings can make it 6 wins in a row and get to 7-1. And after that, the Buffalo Bills will be coming up. We'll preview that game next week, and that'll be a fun game. We know Stephon Diggs will be fired up for that one. And it's interesting when you look at the stats of Justin Jefferson, who the Vikings really got in that trade, a much younger player for Diggs. They're very close, right in the top 5 in the NFL. So be fun to look forward to those couple of games, and the Cowboys ahead. Viking season, they're rolling along at 6-1. And so we'll be back next week. And this has been Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers on 1500 ESPN, and available 24/7 on YouTube via the links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. Everybody have a great, safe Halloween.